Allegations of oral sex among students, get this, at a preschool. We are talking about 4- and 5-year-olds. We are going to speak to one of the parents. Let's get started. Welcome back. I am here with psychologist Wendy Walsh, my co-host this week. Now, warning about this upcoming conversation. This could be graphic and disturbing with sexual content, but it's important that we have to get into this material. Here it is. Several preschool children, I'm talking about 4- and 5-year-olds, are alleged to have taken part in sex acts, oral sex with one another at a recess, during naps, and in a bathroom. Their school is closing for good on Friday. Wendy, I know you and I hear lots about child-on-child sexual abuse. It is much more common than people realize, but it is very problematic.
It's also important that we make the distinction between normal developmental sexual exploration between peers and something that seems to be a symptom of sexual abuse that's come from another adult source, perhaps.
Okay, so the way to understand this for people out there is if a child is showing, looking at anatomy, exploring, that's one thing. But when it becomes directed sexual behavior, that does not happen in children. Does not, unless an adult has introduced that, and sometimes other children can introduce that. The father of one of the allegedly victimized boys, the father, Richard McCarthy, and his attorney, Greg Owen, is here with us. Owen represents several families who are now suing the school. Their lawsuit was in fact filed today. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is investigating this case. Richard, thanks for being here, and I know it's got to be hard to talk about, but I thank you on behalf of other people who need to know about this. What happened to your son?
On October 8th, my wife came home and informed me that I needed to have a conversation with my son to try and get information on what took place at school.
And what did you learn?
I learned that the police were there, and that's all I learned. My son didn't tell them anything. The next morning, I went to the school when I brought my kids back to the school, and the director gave me a story that is turning out not to be the truth. I was originally told that this little girl and my son were caught in a bathroom, and my son's pants were around his ankles. Okay, I didn't think anything of it, but you know, kids pulling each other's pants down. It wasn't until Child Protective Services showed up at my house a week later when I learned that an adult was present, and there was a sworn statement by the adult. When she opened the bathroom door, this little girl was performing oral sex on my son.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Now, you know, when kids go through something like that, it's very important they get treatment. It doesn't, you know, it's important, it's problematic, but there are treatments, and you've got to be sure to avail yourself of this. I would suspect that that girl was sexually abused by an adult.
That's hard. I mean, my heart breaks for your son, but my heart immediately breaks for the little girl, wondering where did she learn this act.
But this is the contagion. This is the cancer that gets in, that adults introduce, and then it goes through children, and it just keeps growing. Now, I have to read a statement from the school. Mr. Owen, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to this. The school says it is not closing as a result of the allegations, but because of a personnel matter. Here is part of a statement from the First Lutheran School of Carson to CNN. Quote, "The incident that Mr. McCarthy has raised, though unfortunate, happened last October and was addressed and dealt with at that time. Mr. McCarthy chose to keep his son enrolled in the school until a week ago. We do not know why Mr. McCarthy has waited until now to take these allegations to the media." Greg Owen, you're the attorney on this case. Tell us, what's that all about?
Well, let me tell you what it's about. Mr. McCarthy's son was not the first child. We know that this started back in June, and that at least 2 parents went to the school and said, my child has been molested. Those children then went to the school officials. They gave them full and complete reports. Those school officials then chose to hide the information. We have the memos. They did not tell the other parents. They did not call the appropriate authorities. Our position is very, very simple.
Yes.
If they had made a report and stopped the incidents after the first June incident, none of this would have occurred.
Was the girl or any of the kids referred for treatment or help?
I believe that Well, here's the thing. It's a difficult area. This is the socioeconomic development in that particular area is difficult. But these folks found $500 a month to put their children in a school that they thought was safe. They made a contract, in fact, that the school said, hey, pay us $500 a month, and we promise you that when your children walk up those stairs, they will have sets of eyes on them until you pick them up.
This is so scary, Mr. Owen, for all of us to send our kids to these preschools. Yeah, when they leave the gene pool, it's scary. I got to take a break. We'll wrap this up after this. I'm back with psychologist Wendy Walsh, and we've been discussing claims of sex acts between 4- and 5-year-olds at a California preschool.
So disturbing.
It's disturbing. We also had mentioned that we speculated that the little girl maybe had been sexually abused. We, of course, have no direct knowledge of that. It's purely us as professionals reporting on the patterns that usually develop when these kinds of things break out. Richard, my question for you is, what's the message for people at home? What do you want people to know?
You know, at any age, you got to have an open conversation, some kind of dialogue with your kids. You know, if you're leaving them at school, daycare, you need to talk about their day.
And I think I always say, Wendy, don't ever say "not my kid." I mean, if you ever say that, you drop your guard for that moment, and that's the moment something happens.
And to expand on what he said, and also to teach your children that they can come to you, that they won't be punished, that there's no shame in this, because a lot of small children feel great feelings of shame when sexual abuse or molestation happen, and they don't tell because they're afraid they'll get in trouble.
And Mr. Owen, I've got about 15 seconds or so to sort of wrap this up. What would you like to say?
I think you said it correctly.
Yeah.
Ask your children detailed questions. You can go body part by body part. There's something called safe touch, bad touch. Once they learn that curriculum, they're much less likely to be victims.
And also
they need the language,
and to empower them to withstand and say no and all those good things that we hope our kids will do. But boy, it is a sexualized, dangerous world. We don't know the impact that pornography has yet on kids. So I appreciate you guys bringing this story to us. Greg Owen, Richard McCarthy, thank you so much.